Good evening and welcome to the Demolition Daily Livestream. I'm your host, Mark Anthony, and tonight I'd like to talk about a subject that isn't discussed anywhere near enough. I personally have made a conscious decision to largely exclude the subject from the pages of Demolition News. Not because it's a subject that shouldn't be discussed, but because if I wrote about it each time I received details, I'd probably write about nothing else. And we'll be right back after this. Everything that demolition companies do on site is prescribed. It's dictated by legislation, regulation, and by client demands. And we can all kid ourselves that we minimise noise and dust and vibration, even if we were working in a remote location far from prying eyes. I think we all know that's probably not the case. We can all proclaim our green credentials from the rooftops, but unless it was required by law or somehow financially beneficial, that environmental ideal might look very different. But there is one thing that demolition does entirely voluntarily. It does it extensively, and it does it quietly, without fuss and fanfare, away from the media spotlight. Until now, of course. If you haven't guessed already, that thing is charitable giving. It's a thing that bubbles to the surface around this time of year. But in truth, it's a thing that goes on year-round, regardless of workloads and regardless of economic climate. And it's to the industry's enormous credit, even though it's done for reasons far more noble than credit and praise. So yesterday, I was on site. Well, that's not strictly true. I was actually in a car park, but it will become a site early in the new year. One of the UK's head of Track and Trace, the Track and Trace initiative, was there for a photo shoot. Ahead of a hospital unit demolition and redevelopment in Birmingham. And the backdrop for that redevelopment was Armac's new Cat 352 UHD excavator. Stumbling over words here. Now, I don't know how much a Cat 352 would have set Armac back. My guess is they probably wouldn't have seen a great deal of change out of £500,000. Factor in the attachment, the quick coupler system, and the various modifications that the modern demolition firm demands. And that machine cost a pretty penny. But Armac's machine now sports a boom livery in support of the NHS. Now, the company didn't need to do that. It already won the contract. But of its own volition, it's giving back. When the COVID crisis first hit back in March, Cantillon's Paul Kluski was among the first to respond, rallying the demolition industry to provide much-needed PPE to frontline NHS workers. William Crooks of Cowarden Demolition recently handed a £12,000 cheque to a children's charity in Derby. Last week, Downwell Demolition's Alan Knight was spotted delivering supplies to a nearby food bank. Richard Dolman barely has his feet under the IDE presidential table, but he's already confirmed that he'll be supporting a dementia charity, both as IDE president and through his company, AR Demolition. Now, I've had my issues with the NFDC in the past and likely will again. But when it comes to giving money, to charity that is, the Federation is unsurpassed. On Monday's show, when I was babbling on about company mergers and acquisitions, I described the demolition industry as dog eat dog. And I stand by that statement. But for all its fierce rivalries and tough guy persona, demolition has its heart firmly in the right place. It's generous to a fault, and that generosity continues regardless of the economic situation. And it's not just the contractors themselves. As you're about to hear, those companies supplying the vital equipment are doing their bit for charity as well. And I'm delighted to talk about that with Barry Robinson of Miller Groundbreaking, who, if I press the right button, is about to join us. Good evening, Barry.
Evening, Mark. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks, and thanks for taking the time to join me. Now, I understand from one of your colleagues, Cheryl, that you are doing your bit for charity up there. What is it that Miller Groundbreaking have actually got planned?
Yeah, that's correct. Well, one of the impacts that COVID's actually had on our business this year is it's actually restricted the annual charity events that we normally do. I mean, a lot of our planned fundraising events have been unfortunately cancelled due to lockdown and furlough, but we weren't happy with that. We were saying, okay, we're going to kick 2020 into touch, and we've got the motto: work hard, play hard, and give a little back. So we've set ourselves a challenge to raise as much money as we can in December for a local children's charity.
Now, I think Cheryl mentioned that you're calling this the 12 days of Miller Christmas, or something very similar to that. I probably should have written that down, actually.
Yeah, it's going to be the Miller 12 Days of Christmas. It's a bit of charity, a bit of donation, a bit of getting a bit of team spirit going amongst the Miller staff. We've got a whole host of events. We're going to do everything from a virtual land end to John O'Groats challenge. We're going to have a no reserve auction to bid for one of our new products, the Miller GTS, which is going down a storm at the minute. There's going to be competitions for Miller goodies, gift and food bank collections, and the one that I'm not looking forward to the most is we're going to get put through hell by a personal trainer for an hour. So I'm really not looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'd make a point of being off that day if I were you. Now, I mean, you and I were speaking just before we came on air, and obviously large parts of the Miller team has been on furlough, but you've literally come back and hit the ground running to give something back to local charity. I mean, I think that's extremely admirable. Who are the charities? Is it local people, local children?
You may have heard of them. It's Mission Christmas, so it's Cash for Kids. It's on the local radio. And for this time of year, it's a charity which supports children affected by poverty. So it's a fantastic charity to get behind.
No, absolutely. Now, one of your colleagues has just posted a comment there. Hey, Barry, I'm not sure who that was, but I'm sure you can figure it out. So is there anything that our viewers and readers and listeners and all those people can do to help you guys?
Yeah, definitely. So keep an eye out on our social media pages. We've got a fundraising page which is actually on the Cash for Kids website, but we're going to have all the links, all of the details. Just get involved. If there is a little bit of a competition, like, share, and just visit our page, please. Like I say, any small act of kindness is going to make a huge difference, and it's a great opportunity to get into the Christmas spirit as well.
No, very much so. And we've just had another comment here from Peter. Good evening, Peter. Well done to Miller Groundbreaking and to Barry. Yeah, absolutely. I'd certainly take my hat off on that. I've got some spare copies of a children's book called My Dad Does Demolition sat here in my office. I'll speak to Cheryl tomorrow, and if you can find a suitable home for those, I will certainly pass those along, just to help you along your way.
You know what I will say, and what I forgot to say as well, is any donation, Miller's going to match pound for pound. So anything that anybody contributes, we as Miller will also match that. So that's doubling the contribution.
Very much so. Now, in actual fact, one of your colleagues, and I'm going to take a wild guess that it probably is Cheryl, she has actually put the link on the feed here. So once this is over and done with, you can click the link and possibly go and make a contribution over there. And as Barry's rightly said there, they will match it. So be generous and let's put Miller through the ringer and really make them stump up some cash. Barry, I really appreciate you joining me tonight. As I say, I know it was last minute. We've had another comment here from our old friend Nick Drew. Great people up at Miller. Hope to get up there one of these days. Yeah, well, Nick, I think if you offer them enough money, they'll probably invite you up right away. Actually, but I'll leave that for them to figure out. You're welcome at any time, Nick. If you didn't pick that up, Barry, I'm going to let you get back to your evening. I wish you every success with the fundraising and the personal trainer that you've got. You've got that's about to put you through hell. I hope you raise an absolute fortune and keep up the good work.
Brilliant, thank you, Mark.
All the very best. Now, those of a certain age might recall a George Michael song called "Praying for Time." It was the song that really marked his transition from teenage pop star to thoughtful singer-songwriter. And it contains the line, which I wish I'd written, to be honest: "Charity is a coat you wear twice a year." Beyond the demolition industry, I think that's sadly often the case. Most of us can sit totally unmoved through TV appeals for everything from providing clean water in Africa, food and clothing to Yemen, and campaigns to save elephants and tigers and mistreated donkeys. But not in the demolition industry. In the demolition industry, charity is not a coat that's worn twice a year. It's a coat that's never taken off. To my mind, it's probably the greatest thing about the demolition industry, and it's made greater still by the fact that it's done quietly and without fanfare. As we all approach what for many will be a tough Christmas at the end of an even tougher year, I just wanted to acknowledge the charitable efforts of everyone in the demolition industry. It goes unreported, and I'm partly to blame for that, and it goes largely unnoticed. But it is noticed, and it is greatly appreciated. Now, we have some exciting news for you LiveStream watchers out there. At 3 o'clock tomorrow, right here on the Demolition Daily Livestream, I will be speaking to none other than SafeDem's William Sinclair, hot on the heels of his company entering the Guinness World Records for its massive blast in Abu Dhabi last week. It's an exclusive interview. William is still over in Abu Dhabi as we speak, so make sure you tune in for that. I don't think I've ever actually interviewed a record breaker before, so I'm looking forward to it. And then just 3 hours after that, we will unleash, and I do mean unleash, the official pilot episode of a brand new show called The Construction Collective. And following the demolition industry's charitable lead that we were talking about earlier, this pilot episode will be mostly dedicated to the construction industry charity, the Lighthouse Club. Myself and my co-host Peter Haddock will be joined on the show by William Hill of the Lighthouse Club and by Merrill Lynch of Lynch Plant, who is a generous supporter of the Lighthouse Club and all its activities. There'll be a first look at the new rotary telehandlers from Bobcat, and the show will contain a world premiere of a brand new film featuring Armac Group and its recent victory at the Wembley Stadium. You won't want to miss that. Of all the videos we've ever produced, this one is, well, it tops the lot. So please try and tune in for that. We're also expecting contributions from the likes of Gap Group, Leica Geosystems, and Plant Force as well. And we've hosted shows in the past, Peter and I, but this one is set to be the biggest yet. That show will air live, as I say, at 6 p.m. on both demolitionnews.com and on diggersandozers.com. But if you'd like to take part, ask questions and possibly win a prize or two, then make sure you watch on Facebook or on YouTube. The show will start at 6 p.m. sharp, and that's tomorrow night. In the meantime, my thanks, and my personal thanks here to the team at Armac, to Paul Klusky at Cantillon, William Crooks at Cowalden, Alan Knight over at Downwell, to Richard Dolman of AR Demolition, and to my mate and co-presenter Peter Haddock, who's also doing his bit for charity at the moment. And to all of those that I haven't had room to mention here, your contribution to charity is enormously appreciated, and I just wanted to acknowledge that tonight. For now, I think that's us done. So please stay safe. Please keep on giving. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. And I will see you not once, but twice tomorrow. I look forward to seeing you then and wish you all a very pleasant evening. All the very best. Good day.